Hola,
Hello.
¿cómo estás?
Bueno. Mercy buckets.
Alrighty. So, anything new in your world?
No. Just wake up every day, head to the washroom, and pee excellence.
All right, that's gross.
Well, I toned it down. It's a family program, so I said pee.
What's that from?
I can't remember what it is. It's some lie. I can't remember what it's from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maya bought a book. I think you already have it.
I do. Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five.
Yeah, is it good?
Yeah, it's very good.
And I bought a book I paid like crazy money because you can't get the book. And so I got it from like England and paid like all of the entry into Canada fees and
Duty.
Yeah. And then I was putting books away today on the bookshelf, that stack of books that you put on the floor, and it was there.
Which book?
Good to Great.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah.
I think I've even got an electronic version of it.
And yours is like brand new. Mine is like old. It's probably the original print copy.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's an old one.
It is good grades. Yeah, big time. It's one of the classic business books.
I've got a huge amount of books I got to get through. And I just bought a bunch more. We like a lot of books, but we do need to. And Maya thought you might already have it, but she's okay because she's like, oh, I'll just have my own one. So
and that's a bit different. Like the Slaughterhouse-Five is like an $8 book,
yeah.
Right? Like it'd be like if she went and bought Lincoln, the book about Lincoln I bought, or something like that. Then
do you have? This is what I was asking you yesterday, and then I got off on a tangent about Karla Homolka, and here I go again. Yeah, like the astronaut's life or something about astronaut's life.
No.
So there's this guy.
He's an astronaut.
Oh no, snowboarder.
Okay.
I'm on to something new now.
What?
Yeah, that was something different. I was just wondering if you had the book, but now I'm on to a new topic. Snowboarder guy. I can't remember his name, but big time in the 90s.
Shaun White?
No.
Master of the Addy?
No.
I don't know anybody else. Tony Hawk never snowboarded.
He died in an avalanche. Anyways, when he had kids, he would strap them on like those little baby Bjorns, and there's pictures of him skiing and snowboarding with his babies.
Cool.
Either on his front or on his back. And by the time his little girl's like 2, he is like crazy race skiing down. And by then she's got a helmet. Baby didn't have a helmet, but by the time she's a little bit older, helmet, full goggles, like just
probably loving it.
Cruising on his back.
Probably loving it.
That is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So cool. Yeah.
Tony Hawk's son married Kurt Cobain's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the only way I could tie into it.
Is he the skateboarder?
Yeah.
Hey, look at me knowing something like that.
That'd be a tough one not to know. Tony Hawk's pretty big.
Why? Why would I know? Do you know?
Wouldn't you know?
How would I know? Where would I ever know Tony Hawk?
Well, the video games, the advertising, the fact that he ruled the X Games for years.
What video games and advertising would I ever be exposed to? Do you want to know how I know him? Because first I was thinking of the guy in the wheelchair who's on Big Bang Theory, the super smart scientist guy.
Oh, you mean Stephen Hawking?
Oh, yeah. That's who I thought you were at first were talking about.
He's been dead for a while.
But you know how I know? It's because a principal was getting a kid who'd already been expelled from 3 other schools. And so she's like, you know what? I'm going to be the principal that makes a difference in this kid's life. And so she found out all about him, and he loved Tony Hawk and skateboarding. And so the first day of school, when she was going to connect with him, she went and bought a Tony Hawk t-shirt and wore it to school. So that's the only reason I know. I've never heard of him outside of that context.
Tony Hawk is actually quite fun. This is totally random, but his online presence is awesome. Like, he's one of the guys that knows how to internet really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he published a bunch of videos of him just driving around randomly in California. And if he saw kids skateboarding, he'd roll up beside them and yell, "Do a kickflip." And if they did a kickflip without question, he'd just hand them a prize, like Beats headphones or a brand new Tony Hawk skateboard or all these random things. So it became a meme that if you'll hear other people see their friends or be videotaping their friends and go, "Do a kickflip." And it's because of Tony Hawk. And like, he would tweet about just random things that happened in his life, like how he was going through customs one day and someone looked at his passport and said, "Oh, Tony Hawk, like the skateboarder," and then said, "Oh, I wonder what he's doing right now." And Tony Hawk's response was, "Well, this," right? Because he's this super famous, but to your point, he's not really known outside of this niche area. So it's kind of funny.
That reminds me of the story of Jim from The Office.
Where he was flying into the UK and
Yeah.
they got mad at him that he was married to Emily Blunt.
Yeah, and didn't believe that he could be married to Emily Blunt.
Well, it was back before he kind of got glowed up. Like he was kind of, he looked like a little frat boy back in the day.
Cool.
All right.
Well, I have a special guest today. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Kevin Petersen, MA, LMFT. He's published 2 books, Chronic Hope, Parenting the Addicted Child, and Chronic Hope, Families in Addiction, which share an integrated, holistic approach to healing families in crisis due to addiction and codependency. So kind of the theme of what we're going to be talking about today. Kevin established the Chronic Hope Institute in 2020 with a mission to help families in crisis through family addiction coaching. Dedicated to strengthening the family system, Kevin turns helplessness into hope. And we've got some contact information here too of the Chronic Hope Institute. So we are going to be talking about with him today about addiction. And while, we do touch on, when we think of addiction, it's often substance use, alcohol, drugs, those types of things. But gaming is a thing too. And we got to be really careful because it does affect the brain very similarly. And we see our kids withdrawing. And so this is quite timely because I talk about gaming addiction as well all the time.
Yeah.
The problem with screens. So, yeah.
Cool. Let's do it.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor, and I'm nothing I like talking about more than myself. So this should be just fine.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to jumping in. Well, why don't we start there? Why don't we start by having you introduce yourself to everybody?
Okay, sure. Great. Thank you. My name is Kevin Petersen. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I live in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I own Petersen Family Counseling, which operates I moved here from Colorado in 2019. So I have an office in Colorado and Denver where I have 3 people working for me there. And then I am the lone participant of the Florida office. As you see, this is the Florida office.
Yeah.
And then I also have another company called the Chronic Hope Institute, which is about educating families and professionals on how to work with families that are struggling with addiction.
Nice. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Big, heavy topic.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's, you want me to sort of.
Let's jump in.
Yeah,
let's
jump
in.
What took you down the path? How did you start focus on that?
Oh, I just threw a dart. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So I grew up in a really neat little town in Northern California called Palo Alto, where Stanford University is. And 2.5 weeks ago, I turned 60. So I was born in 1964, and Palo Alto was this amazing little, incredible place to grow up. And my dad was super successful. And on the outside, we had this wonderful life, beautiful home, cars, trips, and everything like that. And on the inside, we had a deep, dirty secret. And that was my mom was struggling with a lot of mental health issues and prescription drug addiction. And so my sister and I grew up in that environment of thinking that was normal, not to get into deep early childhood development stuff, but when you grow up as a kid and you come home from school and you never know if mom's going to be stoned, passed out, or mom, and you never know what to expect. That's what you grow up with, and you think that's normal. That kind of random and environment is super normal. So that's what I grew up with. Started about 13 years old. I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol myself, and it turns out I absolutely love them, and to the point where I love them more than I love anything else. And I could keep it together a little bit in high school. But when I got to college, I went to the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. I started in the fall of 1982. It was just an immediate downhill slide. Things blew up right away. And I ended up, as I always tell people, after 6 years of college,
Yeah.
you know, my parents were wondering when I was going to graduate. I was quite curious myself. And so I turned in the paperwork and, normally you get back an answer that says, congratulations, you'll be graduating in May. Or you get something saying, hey, here's where you're deficient, go take these classes. I got a handwritten note saying, you got to be kidding. And I really did. They
Oh,
were like,
wow.
you're not even enrolled at this university because you're on academic probation. You're on, super duper secret probation. You owe us tens of thousands of dollars and da 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 da. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, I'm graduating in May. So I rented the cap and gown. I ordered the announcements and I sent them all out. And my parents and sister flew down from Northern California. And on May 9th, 1988, I faked my graduation from college.
Wow.
That's not a
Wow.
turn I expected.
Yeah, no.
I know, right? That's kind of my big move, my big gangster move. And there's a whole story that goes with it, but it's like 8 a.m. and I'm drunk out of my mind and there's 4,000 people and I'm just like thinking I'm going to get caught. I really thought it was all just going to blow up in my face and it just kept going, I stood up, I sat down, I got an empty diploma holder,
Wow.
and I went back to Palo Alto and got a job at a restaurant. I'd always worked in restaurants and I was bartending and, I hope this is okay for me to say, selling weed, because back in the 80s,
Yep.
that was something you did, and that lasted for a couple of years. And here comes the important part. In August of 1990, I was at a family reunion in San Luis Obispo, California. And my dad and I drove home together. It's about a 4-hour drive. And the first 5 minutes went like this. Kevin, you're my only son and I love you, but I don't believe a word out of your mouth. I think you're a liar, cheat, and a thief, a drug addict, and an alcoholic. I'm fairly confident you did not graduate from college. And until you are willing to start addressing those things, we have gotten together, your mother, your sister, and I, and we've decided we no longer want you as part of the family.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, we're going to do this again. Okay. And I mean, everyone in recovery will tell you, we heard that so many times,
Right.
And I was like, oh, God, here we go. The difference was this time they were getting some coaching from a therapist and they held their ground. I didn't live at home. I had a job and a car and a house and all that sort of, apartment. But they held that ground and they were like, yeah, no, you're not welcome here. And you just keep it. And so that lasted about 6 weeks. And so after about 6 weeks, I called my mom and, I was crying and I was like, you guys don't love me. This isn't fair. They were like, so how would you feel about going to therapy? And I was like, therapy? I've been seeing those idiots for years, and I was 26 at the time. And so in January of 1991, I started going to therapy with my dad. And a funny thing happened. I started telling the God's truth. And my dad started telling his truth. And that went on for 5 months. And at the end of April, I went into therapy by myself. And the therapist said, you're an alcoholic and you need help. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so I said, what do I do? And he's like, you need to go to AA. And I'm like, okay. And by the way, at that point, God, you didn't know this was coming, did you?
It's good.
This is great, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of questions I've got already.
Oh yeah, please. At that point, I'd already figured out USC is a private university. And so if you work there full time, school's free. I mean, really like a real job,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had called a friend of mine who worked for the president, and she was a family friend. And I was like, hey, I'm coming back to LA and I need help. And she was like, my office, 8 o'clock Monday morning, show up business attire. I'm like, got it. And I did. And I sat down with her and, she was my parents' age. She was the secretary to the president of the university, so like, she ran the place,
Yeah.
And this is a 30,000 student. I mean, this is a big deal, So I sat in her office. I said, Liz, I don't know if you realize this. I never graduated from USC. And she started laughing. And she's like, I'm well aware. I looked up your records. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, and I have called in a favor from every single department. And I've got your path in front of you. You got to stay sober. And the first thing I want you to do right now, I want you to run over to this office and meet my friend Ron. And I was like, okay. And I ran over to this office and walked into this guy's office. And the guy looked just like me. And he said, I'm Ron. I'm an alcoholic. I want to take you to a meeting. And I was like, okay. And so I got sober on May 5th, 1991. I've been sober ever since.
Good for you.
Crazy, huh? I graduated from USC in August of 1994. Here's the funny part. I had a 1.1 GPA. And so I had to retake a lot of classes.
Yeah.
And then I didn't get over a 2.0. So they were like, you got to take a bunch more classes and get A's. You got to get over a 2.0. So I was like, all right. So I started taking all these really fun classes and I graduated. I moved to Denver, got married, got divorced. Still go to AA, by the way. And then in 2007, I'd been divorced a couple of years, and I was 43 years old. I was 16 years sober, and internally, I was miserable. And the only time I felt good was when I was engaging in my recovery community. And so I talked to two of my friends in that community that were my age and my peers, and one of them had quit his job selling cell phones. And gone back to nursing school, and the other one had become a therapist. And I was like, what do you think? And I said, I know in my heart I love people. I love helping people. And they both said the same thing. You should go to school and be a therapist. So I applied to one school, put all my eggs in one basket, and I got into Regis University. Started in 2008. After a year, they started an MFT, marriage and family therapy program. I jumped into that. And it was like, I was like, I get it. This all makes sense, and graduated in 2011, stuck around for another year and a half and got a certificate in child and adolescent counseling, which taught me I don't like working with kids. I love kids. But I believe in the systemic approach that you solve the problem from the top down.
Yeah.
When a business is struggling, you don't fire the receptionist.
Yeah.
You retrain the management team, And I spent 3 years working in community mental health in Denver, doing crisis work. I was the guy that showed up at 2 a.m. At the ER for the kid on Medicaid who was suicidal, homicidal, or psychotic. And then that team I was with would follow that kid home and do in-home family therapy. And that's where I really just was like, ta-da, this is it, And then, And then in 2014, I started my own private practice, swearing to God I would never work with alcoholics and addicts and their families because those people are crazy. And that's all I do. And I've written a couple of books on it, and I do coaching and I do training for other therapists, and that's the quick.
Yeah, and lots, and I know, like for myself, it's parents always bring in their kids, and I'm like, I'm not a mechanic shop. I'm not gonna, work on your kid for an hour and fix everything. So we have to work together, and it really is that systemic piece. And most of the people in my clinic do that. So in your work, from you've got some fantastic, I look at everything from a resilience lens, right? So great resilience and where you have grown. Like, look at you're a walking definition of not just bouncing back, but thriving from those experiences that you've had. So from your personal experience and professional experience, what is it that you've learned that you want all families to know, all parents to know? Or is that too big of a question?
No. A friend of mine is like, you need to write a book. You have so many Kevinisms. Okay. And so here's one of them. Happy families come from happy individuals. Can I swear?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Happy individuals work on their shit. Everybody has shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be on the front of the t-shirt. And then my wife says on the back, we're going to put, of course, we're going to talk about your childhood.
Right.
Because like you, I love your analogy. My analogy is people are like they're bringing a TV back to Costco. Like, this one's broken. I need a new one. You know, I'm like, oh, I can get somebody's, I mean, I can't get somebody sober, but I can show someone the path to sobriety or abstinence or whatever you want to call it. But we have to create a better system around them. And here's the important thing to understand is that, and another, okay, here comes another Kevinism. You're not responsible for your loved one's addiction. You are responsible for how you respond to it.
Right.
And the way you respond to it tells us so much about you and your stuff, your trauma, right? You know, because we all parent out of our own wound. We just do. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just the nature of parenting. Everybody parents out of their wounds, you know?
Yeah. And that's why we see so much intergenerational trauma and epigenetics and all of those things. So
yeah. And so if we can get the parents to start addressing their wounds and changing and shifting the system of how they're engaging with their kids and setting the example for their children that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to try something different. The kid is going to watch that, you know, and be like, oh, okay. So it's okay here to do X, Y, Z and say, oh, I don't like that. Okay, cool. But, you know, let's figure something else out. At the same time, I'm very big on accountability and transparency, you know, and so understanding that, you know, okay, here comes another one. You can't punish somebody into good behavior.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
What you can do is have a transparent, empathetic, accountability-driven relationship with someone. And if someone's struggling at school, oh, well, let's get you some support. You know, if they're struggling with drugs and alcohol, let's get you some support. If they're struggling with their behavior, let's get you some support and help you. I'm not going to punish you. You know, I'm going to help you. But if you don't want the help, well, then we're going to start talking about taking another accountability step.
So one question, if I can just jump in, is, and you've talked about the parents working on their own individual shit, and that I agree 100%. In your story, you referenced you and your dad going to therapy, but you also in the beginning talked about your mom's behavior and her own struggles. So I guess the question is, was she already on a path where she was dealing with it, or did by trying to get you on that path, did it spur her on her own, or was it just always dealt, you know, separately? How did that kind of factor into your path?
Wow, that's a great question. Unfortunately, my mom never did get sober. We went through these interesting spurts where she would go to therapy and get like semi-healthy, and then she would kind of relapse and fall back into her world. At one point in my sobriety, I kind of did my own little ill-conceived, poorly managed intervention on my mom, which, you know, just was a total waste of time. I handled it so poorly. You know, it was very shame-based and like, you know, I know you're taking way too many painkillers and drugs, and I think you need help. And, you know, the response I got was, well, you know, the doctors say I'm fine. And then my dad, you know, afterwards had some very choice words for me about minding my own fucking business. And I was like, okay. My mom died in 2014. Here, I'll tell you the story. And I want to be clear with you. I love my mom dearly. And she and I obviously were very, you know, like this, right? You know? And she, when she died, and people that come from this kind of home will understand this. It was when that week that she went into the hospital, my sister and her kids were actually in Orlando and at Harry Potter World. And I was on call. It was my turn to deal with the mom and dad crisis. And my dad, which there's even a deeper level. That's 2014. That was at Thanksgiving. my dad called me in tears and said, your mom had 3 heart attacks. She's in the ICU. And I was like, okay, I mean, all right, let me finish up my therapy and I'll get out of here. And I called my girlfriend, now my wife, and I was like, hey, here's what's going on. She's like, yeah, I know. Come get me. And I'm like, no, I'll handle this and I'll be home in an hour. She's like, come get me. And I got her and we got up there and the ICU doctor came out and he's like, she's on the machines and there's nothing we can do. And I was like, okay. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I get it. I mean, this is not a shock. He's like, okay, so your dad is in the waiting room bawling and saying, this is such a shock. How did this happen? And he goes, I'm telling you, your mother's toxicity levels on her drugs are someone that has been taking these drugs for years. And I'm like, yeah, bro, it's been this way for 50 years. And he was like, oh my God, I could see the relief in his eyes. Like, what did we miss?
Right.
Like you didn't miss anything. And so, called my sister and the doctor's like, basically she's on a DNR. So you guys just need to tell us when. And so we got, I was very fortunate. My girlfriend, Amy, my wife, was with me. By the way, we started dating in 2014. That was the 5th death in the family.
Wow.
Holy cow.
We started dating in February of 2014. In April, my brother-in-law, who I grew up with in California, his dad died. A very close friend of mine and the sponsor in AA died. My wife's mother died. My brother-in-law's mother died. And then my mother died.
Wow.
So, we gathered around my mom, held her hand, and took her off the machines, and she passed away.
That's too.
So that was, and then my dad died 2.5 years ago. And I'm not trying to be callous or like, data manufacturer, it's crushing. It's utterly crushing. And one of the things that I really struggled with is I was so angry because I felt like, this didn't have to happen. And at that point, and I was 23 years sober, and why didn't anybody listen to me? And I blame my dad. It was him. He was a drug dealer. He went and got all our prescriptions. And my wife, who is not in the mental health business on any level whatsoever, at one point sat me down and said, your mom didn't wake up every morning and choose this life. Her mental illness and her drug addiction were running the show. And she was just in a ton of pain, and this is what she saw as her solution, and like when we cleaned out the house afterwards, I mean, we found all sorts of medications, unfilled prescriptions, like a stack this high. I mean, it was just,
wow.
Really fun.
Well, and
thank you for sharing that. I didn't mean to take it down that path. I really appreciate you opening up like that. So thank you.
It's part of the deal. It's important to understand that I understand what it's like to be the family member.
Yeah.
And watch that.
Yeah.
And I mean, just talking about from a systemic lens, just even looking at society, and especially in the United States and the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, was it the Starsky family? I can't remember. They just got a big payout, and they're the ones like who started, I think it was opioids or something like that. And so if we look at where we've created, and it's not just the pharmaceutical company, it is social media, it is Netflix, it is quick fix. We just want this quick fix, to numb us of our stress or whatever's going on in our life. We talk about this all the time because people haven't learned to sit with uncomfortable feelings and to learn how to tolerate that. And so we just want that quick fix. And it's especially if there's pain. I mean, they made those drugs knowing that they would be addictive. And so it's easy to blame the one person, but it's such a bigger piece. But I also like that you still uphold the accountability, right? Like we still, in your family, created those boundaries, and who knows, if they didn't make you accountable and hold those boundaries, they would have been martyrs, doormats, whatever, for the rest of their life, and just perpetuate that too. So it's that fine balance of support and the accountability.
Oh, absolutely. You're 100. By the way, it's the Sackler family in pursuit.
Oh,
Thank you.
Sackler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can have a whole conversation.
Yeah.
I had both my knees replaced in 2016, and I was not a opiate guy. I mean, I got sober in 1991. I mean, people were still like heroin. Oh,
yeah.
That's what crazy people do, I had my first knee done in October of 2016, and I came home with a big jar of OxyContin and oxycodone, and I was just like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
And it's not like the stuff that I would do. I mean, I felt like I'm fine, everything's great, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah. But back to your point, and back to parenting and the family system and the whole big picture, right? Is that, yeah, that's exactly right. We, so what interestingly enough, my mom had one sister who's younger, and her daughter and I are friends, and we would talk about our experiences and what it was like in her home, et cetera, and you start looking at the breadcrumbs from past generations. And they had to have experienced a ton of trauma because it explains their behavior, and I get that, and I understand that, and again, now we're back to, okay, so how do you heal a family like this? How do you, when I opened up my private practice, Colorado had legalized recreational marijuana in 2014. I had a line at the door, of families that were like, he's 16, he's stoned all day. What do we do? And I'm like, well, you just,
we have that problem. It's legal here. We have that problem too. And they rely, I work with so many teens who rely, well, I have to have it for sleep. And they'll show the research, like it's helping my development and it's helping me with all these things. So yeah, we get it.
Yeah. And there's, I can go all day on that. There's not a single study that shows that it's it's like those idiot studies, like, a glass of wine is good for you. No, it's not. Alcohol is not good for you on any level whatsoever. Now, I'm not telling people don't drink. I'm an alcoholic. You're not. Drink all you want. But don't lie to me.
Yeah.
It's we've talked about that too. Is it the glass of wine, or is it that we're relaxing and being with family and socializing, right? Like it's probably the bigger picture that we don't pay attention to. Anyway,
just a side note on that.
Yeah.
I never really had a side either way, but I don't know if you've ever listened to Andrew Huberman.
I was just going to say, you listen to the Huberman Lab?
His podcast about drinking and drugs is mind-boggling.
Oh, really?
He's just basically, you take a sip and here's what it does to your body. And just, he breaks it down so much that you're like, I'll just drink pop. Like it's fine.
Well, and that's why I don't drink. And like, I want to protect my brain.
100%. It's crazy.
And,
by the way, Huberman's at Stanford, right? So, that's where I was born there and at the hospital. But his study, the one he did a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, was he did cannabis, nicotine, and alcohol. And he's like, I want to be super clear with you. They're not good for you, and they trigger all sorts of stuff inside you. Now, here, ready for a contrast? In 2018, my wife went in for a regular colonoscopy and found out that she had colorectal cancer.
Oh, wow.
And then the next day we did a PET scan and found out she had her left kidney was one giant tumor. So she had two primaries with no connection whatsoever. So she's fine. 5 years later, 6 years later, she's fine. But part of the treatment, they were like, the doctors were like, do you want medicinal marijuana? It'll help you sleep. It'll help your appetite, And she's in recovery also. And she's like, so how do you feel about that? I'm like, that's what it's there for. I don't have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
If I come home and there's a drum circle, we're going to have a talk.
Yeah.
But it does serve a purpose, but the purpose isn't to be high all day, And so anyway, I feel like I'm not being true to your topic.
No, this is great.
No, it's good. So line up at the door.
Yeah, line up the door.
So at a line at the door, people are like, what do I do with my kid? And I'm like, well, you hold them accountable and you do it with love and compassion and empathy. And so in in my first book, Chronic Hope, Parenting the Addicted Child, available on Audible, Amazon, and Kindle.
We'll put it all in the show notes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, cool. You're going to make Jeff Bezos money more than you'll ever make me money. He's going to the moon.
He needs it. Yeah, he needs it.
I know. He's got a new girlfriend. Yeah,
that's true.
And, what I did was create an environment, or I created a system for families, and it's basically what I call Plan A, which is we're going to hold accountability in 3 categories, and it's really simple and straightforward. No drugs, no alcohol. Just period. No drugs, no alcohol. But boundaries are great, but there has to be an accountability function. So the accountability function is going to be breathalyzing and drug testing. I prefer that they go to a facility. We can cross that. We can have that argument, whatever. The last part is the important part, and that's like the structure, the rewards and consequences. And this is where most parents struggle, because if they're testing positive, you have to apply some level of consequence, but it's not a surprise gotcha. It's, hey, here's the deal. No drugs, no alcohol. Oh, okay, you're testing positive. Therefore, no social life, no, phone. Oh, he has to have his phone. Great. Get him a flip phone. I have an answer for everything. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you do too. And that's the first category. Second category is school or work. And so here's the funny thing. I grew up in basically, my high school was literally across the street from Stanford. If you don't think it was like an insanely academic high school, you're nuts. It was public, but it's an off the charts public school,
Yeah.
It turns out that you can do well in school if you're getting support at home. You don't got to be the valedictorian.
Mm-hmm.
But the number of families that I talked to were like, well, he's doing pretty good in school, straight C's. I'm like, that's not okay. So what I say is, you got to go to class, got to turn in all your homework, and you got to get a certain GPA. I don't care what it is, if it's a B or whatever, but you have to hold them accountable. This is their job. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, again, we're not coming at them with a big stick. We're coming at them with a perspective of, if you're struggling, if you have a learning disability, if you don't understand, we're going to get you help. Mm-hmm. We want you to succeed. I don't like school. Okay, what do you like? I like computers. Great. Let's get you into and I don't mean gaming.
No.
Yeah.
I like coding. Great. Let's do that. I like cars. Great. Let's do it. I'm a yes to all those things. Okay. But the same thing happens at the end. And now here's the important thing that I tell the families. You're not hovering over them every 5 seconds. On Friday at 5 o'clock, when everybody comes home, we're going to open up the portal. I'm guessing they have those up there too, where we open up the portal and the portal says he went to class or he didn't go to class. He turned in his homework or he didn't turn his homework. And this is his current GPA. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't get it, guess what he gets to spend the weekend doing?
Yeah. Homework.
And then they're like, well, he finished, and then we get into the game of chicken. And I'm like, oh, no. We're not playing chicken. If he just chooses not to do it, great. Then we'll talk about what plan B is. Okay. Then the last category is behavior at home, and it's just like, so here, I'm 60. If I ever use the language with my mom and my dad that these kids use with their parents.
I know.
My dad, I was bigger than my dad at 14. And he was not a physical man. If I ever would have used that language, I would have been on the floor.
Yep.
Wondering what happened. I was right here, and then now I'm on the floor. It was, it was just a different time. I'm not advocating.
No.
It's just a different world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And here is back to what we were talking about earlier, right? We're all parenting out of our wounds. So I have found in my travels in this game or this gig is that people our age or my age, I'm guessing you're younger, but we were parented one of two ways. Do what I tell you or I'll beat the shit out of you, or just stay out of my way and don't cause trouble. Abuse, neglect, And so what we've done as this generation is come forward with a perspective of, I am here to be your best friend. I'm going to solve all your problems. I'm going to take care of you. In Colorado, we would call them snowplow parents.
I call them curling parents.
I love curling.
Because they're cleaning that path perfect. So little rock gets exactly, yeah.
And so it's about, again, holding them accountable. It's like, oh, well, you called your mother the C word, so you can't go to the party,
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that's just, you made the choice. I didn't. That was the whole thing, is putting it back on them.
Yeah, it's their choice.
This is your choice. You made a choice. I'm just holding you accountable to that choice.
Well, and I think the key piece that I'm taking away from that is also that you're upfront about that ahead of time, right? Like you've said a few times, it's not about surprising them, because I think a lot of parents will react to the situation and disproportionately respond to it, right? Whereas if you all know, hey, if you don't do this thing, this is what is going to happen. You choose how you want to deal with it. There's no surprise. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I know. They might not like it, and you may have a different conversation, but it's not like they feel that they're being singled out that way.
Because that's how we choose, or that's how we parent. And I know Willow our youngest has stomped up the stairs several times, especially when I was first implementing it.
Yeah.
Your choices suck. I'm like, well, they're your choices, so you can choose which outcome you want. Like, it's no skin off my back, right? It's your choice. Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing I see that what a lot of parents I work with are like, I sat there and I explained to him what's going to happen, and I rationalized, and I'm like, stop
talking. Yeah.
Oh my God, you've lost me.
Yeah.
They're 14, they're 16, they're 18, they're 22. They don't care.
Yeah.
Most like people, boys' brains are not fully developed till they're 30. And most women are like, and even then,
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I get it. So stop treating a 16-year-old like a 45-year-old adult. They're never going to have that context and understand what the hell you're talking about. Just lay it out. Here are the rules. And like you said, here's the transparency to the rules. And this is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't do them, this is what's going to happen. I'm not going to beat you. And the other thing is, this is the biggest part for the parents. Don't get angry. Don't shame them. Don't get punitive. Don't get belittling. You stand back and say, okay, well, you made a choice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with that choice comes this.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me you didn't want to go to the party this weekend.
Yeah, totally cool. I totally support your choice, but unfortunately, it comes with this consequence.
And I think part of that as well is by having these conversations, you're also giving them, explicitly or implied, you're giving them the ability to explain to you what is going on with them as well, right? Like even if you're having this back and forth where this is what's going to happen or not, you're opening a line of communication with them where hopefully a byproduct is you yourself as a parent understand a bit more, because to your point, their brain isn't fully developed, but they're trying to process a lot of stuff at the same time that you may or may not be aware of. And that by having those conversations, you're not omitting that when you're enacting it. Right?
Well, and those conversations can come when everybody's calm and their prefrontal cortex is online, and we can have a rational conversation. We're not making these choices in the heat of the moment.
Well, and that's what I mean, right? Yeah. Like you're going to understand it better, so that even in the heat of the moment, you are able to be more calm, and you are able to recognize that, okay, they made a bad choice and there's the outcome, but they're not a bad kid, or what I mean? Like you're not reacting in a way that makes a bigger bonfire.
And you said probably the single most important concept that I try to reinforce over and over, especially with the kids that are struggling with substance abuse, is like, it's not, your kid's not a bad kid.
Yeah.
He's making bad choices. And come on, who didn't, the other side of that too is that when someone's in addiction, don't hate them, hate their addiction, and help them to free themselves of that. It's like, I didn't hate my wife, I hated her cancer, both of them, and so it's about, they need your support, they need your help. And the other thing too, and this is just so rampant across the board, is stop trying to be your kid's best friend. That's not your job. Your job's to be their parent.
Yeah.
And I find attachment gets in the way. Well, I can't do that because I'm going to disrupt our attachment. So what would you say to that?
I would say, I would say, please don't confuse your Google search engine with my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. Just because you Googled attachment. Let me tell you something. And I swear to God, this is, and I know you guys know this, but here's how I respond to that. Every single family I work with that holds boundaries and lets these kids know that there's consistency, accountability, and transparency in our household, they feel safe.
Yeah.
Attachment, I get attachment theory and I get it, and I'm in, okay? But it's not as important as a kid feeling safe.
Yeah.
If a kid feels safe, they're going to grow and emotionally and mature, right? Like when you look at the ACE study, right? What's the ACE study?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I'll say yes.
Adverse
I'll say yes.
child experience.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You beat me to it.
Yeah.
The most important thing they talk about, I think, is that those are all things that disrupt a kid's emotional well-being, right? And what happens? They have higher incidence of, incarceration, teenage pregnancy, mental illness, substance abuse, domestic violence, right? And it's not because they were hanging out with the wrong crowd at high school at 16. It's because from 0 to 6, their world was unstable. We've proven that. And so the consistency of the parenting and the household and the structure, having meals available, having dinner available at the same time, doing things. And I realize not every day is going to be, la, 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 leave it to Beaver perfect. But if the kid, like a lot of times I'll work with split families, right? And the one parent's like, he's the cool parent, and they get. I'm like, let me tell you something. Let me tell you how this is going to play out. Ready? And I said, I will give you all your money back at the end of the year. Ready? And I said, sure. They're going to come back to your house because they feel safe, and I've never had to give the money back.
Yeah.
Well, and that's safety. It's funny because it's almost like it's a false attachment that they're trying to create when really the attachment is through that environment that you build, right? Because we talk about that all the time, right?
Well, people worry that their child upset with them is going to disrupt their attachment. Well, that's part of parenting.
Yeah, dude. My kids can get upset with me 17 times a day, and I don't have to do anything. Like, that's irrelevant
Just
to how you
looking at
operate.
them.
Yeah, totally. I spoke to them in the morning. Well, I'm on the bad list.
I mean, your kids should be pissed at you. That's part of being a kid. And that's part of being, you go out of your way to pick a fight with them. But, kids crave boundaries. Kids crave consistency. When they have those things, they feel safe. And here's the next thing that every parent says. When he's over at his friend's house, my friends are like, oh my God, your kid is so wonderful. And when he's at my house, he's a dick. I'm like, right, because he feels safe.
Safe. Yeah.
He can be uncomfortable and dysregulated with you because he knows nothing bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
You still love him. Mm-hmm. And even your experience, right? It was that kids push boundaries. That's their job, is to push boundaries so that they know that they're there. And when they can feel that boundary, okay, now I know that's there. Now I feel secure. And that's what happened with you. When your family finally put that boundary in, it turned you around. You probably wouldn't be here having this conversation if your dad didn't have that conversation. So I'm just conscious of time, and I have a presentation that I need to go to tonight. So I don't want to cut us too short though. But so what happens then when parents have done all of these things and kids like, screw you, I'm going to go to the party. You can't make me. And then they leave and then they don't come home.
You throw out all their stuff
at a time. And because I have worked with those families too. And
I've had friends that are those kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're doing what I call plan B. So what if plan A fails? And I always say, let's try plan A for 30 days. Let's give them a month. Let's get them all the appropriate support places in place, and let's help them. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, now we got to talk about plan B. And plan B is probably going to be intervention and treatment. And I know that's right now that's an ugly word, and there's a lot
inpatient. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. If we're at that level, if we're at a point where they won't quit using, and they're like, F you, I'm going to leave and never come back, and they're 14 or 16, okay, cool. You still have that parental authority where you can put them in a facility. And trust me, I am not quick to do that. I want to find every way not to do that. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I'm incredibly fluent in all the facilities in the United States, and I know which ones are legit and which ones aren't. And I know there's a rash of documentaries now exposing the terrors of childhood or teenage treatment. Never had any one of those experience with any one of my clients, because I do the investigation and it's a last resort.
Yeah.
It's not, I get families that come to me that are like, F that kid. I want those guys to snatch his ass and throw him in the mountains. I'm like, time out.
Yeah. That's not going to help.
Now we may do that, but let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Let's try. And because, a lot of times we got to be like, oh, okay, so, what have you done as a parent? I mean, let's talk about the parenting structure. What is your system? We don't have one.
Yeah. Well, we always joke about that because it is the parent's fault. Like, and we say it's kind of, tongue in cheek, but it's no different than one of our guests in a previous podcast, and it's something we've talked about. And it's an accountability thing. Is what was your role in the situation, right? Like, what have you done or not done? And can you take a step back and objectively look at it and go, okay, yeah, no, I see that.
I've done everything and nothing works. But with the wrong sort of intention.
Your wrong motivation. You're trying to get to this place where you think it needs to be because it serves your purpose. Right. But if you take a step back and look at what your kid needs, you may have a different approach. And you're right. Framework, structure, accountability. If you're not able to consistently apply that, well, what did you expect? Right.
Right, exactly. And again, I don't want to get into blaming all the parents because I think they're doing, honestly, I would tell you 99.99% parents I work with are doing the best they can.
They're well-intentioned.
100%. It's just, but every parent can always take a look and try and improve things as well. And like I said, it is tongue in cheek. I don't think every parent's bad. I don't think it's truly their fault, but it really does. There's an accountability piece for you as much as your kid in the situation you find yourself.
Goes back to when a company's struggling, you don't fire the receptionist.
Exactly.
You change the management team's structure and the way the strategy and how they do business.
100%.
And so, that's where, I am an advocate if that's what and here's the thing, if the kid is putting their life in danger, through drugs and alcohol or poor choices or poor behavior, then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. I'm sorry. And until we somehow magically find a new way to solve that problem, that's what we're going to do, and not everybody ends up there,
No.
And so that's the philosophy that I did in my first book. The second book has that also, but it gets deeper into the family system, deeper into codependency and family of origin trauma, and where that comes from and why. And there's like 3 sections, right? The first part is the crisis. It's the, oh shit, like, what do we do? I'm like, okay, plan A and plan B. And then the second section is, okay, now that we've instituted this, whether they're going to treatment or not, they're sober or not, then the second is where we're going to address the family system. And we're going to really dig in and sort of take a look at the family dynamics and how everything plays through. My favorite thing, I'm sorry, and I love to talk, but my favorite thing when I ask them is, what's the history of mental illness and alcoholism or addiction in your family? Oh, there's none. None. Absolutely none. It's just him. And I'm like, I used to fight. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I just listen, and in 5 minutes they've already filled in the blanks.
Right. Yeah.
Well, my great uncle, he wasn't an alcoholic. He went and lived at a home.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you start to hear all the stories, like, well, we moved every year. How come? Oh, my dad kept getting better jobs. Really? Is that what they told you? And so, we start looking at the disruptive patterns of childhood behavior, and you're like, well, okay, I get it. This makes sense. And so, but it also, it takes the onus because every parent I work with thinks it's their fault. It's because they were breastfed or bottle fed. It's because I yelled or I didn't yell. It's because I hit him or I didn't hit him. And I'm like, no, and no. I get really deep into this, by the way, explaining alcoholism and addiction. I said, let me explain to you, alcoholism is a binary solution, right? You either is or you isn't. You don't pick it up in a public restroom. That's not how it works. Okay. You have a genetic predisposition, it gets activated, and it either goes or doesn't. I have a sister who's my biological sister. She is not an alcoholic or an addict, and she grew up in the room right next to me. She's weird. She married one person. One college and graduated in 4 years. Who does that?
That's weird. Yeah, that's not normal. Yeah.
And so, it's really about educating the heck out of the family system and educating the parents and educating I don't waste a lot of, by the way, I rarely work with the kids, if ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always with the parents. And a lot of times when I come after the family, the parents, they tend to be, a lot of times they're working people. And I'm like, so look at me as a consultant. Your company's starting to struggle. Sales are down, morale's down. Oh my God, what are we doing? What do? They bring in a consultant.
Yeah.
And you pay the consultant tells you what to do, and you have a choice. You can do it or not. It's totally up to you. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I use that analogy all the time. And even as parents too, sometimes, right? Like you're the consultant here. And the only thing I would say, because I know we probably should wrap up. This would apply for gaming too. I think we need to, because gaming is also a huge problem. And for me, it's funny because it does affect the brain the exact same way as cocaine, just as quickly as cocaine. But parents can't seem to set solid boundaries around that. And I would say if your kid was coming home with a bag of cocaine or heroin, what would you do? Well, of course, I would take it away. But they're not so screens for me is even harder, I find.
Well, because they've been marketed as something that is less offensive and dangerous than it actually is. It's just fun. It's a good escape. It's, and that's how, and again, that's how they connect with their friends. And how are you supposed to be able to stay in touch?
They justify it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. And I've heard it all. And I hear my answers are super simple. Remember when we were kids and there were 3 channels on the TV? What did your parents say? You get your homework done and you can watch a couple hours and you got to go to bed.
Yep.
Same answer.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I want to let you know the dark side of gaming, which you may or may not have figured out. Because if they're doing this all night, you know what else is on that phone?
Oh yeah,
porn.
Yeah,
100%.
And I'll tell you the leading sex addiction expert in the world, Stephanie Carnes out of the Meadows in Arizona, saw her speak a couple of years ago, and she's like, I want to be super clear with you. Every single kid that has a cell phone or has a smartphone is at some point looking at porn. And she goes, I swear to God, the statistics start at 8.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know what they're doing, but it's there and it's free. And so, yes, it's gaming, but I mean, you want to talk about what else activates the brain like cocaine?
Yeah,
absolutely. I could go, that's a whole other topic, because I used to do a lot around that. I've actually just given up. I got so burnt out because it was always such a heavy topic and parents were like just too much. I just couldn't get the same sort of buy-in. And it was just, but even though like it's disrupting relationships and like just all sorts of things. But
the statistics are so deep. I mean, you've got men 30 years old taking, ED drugs because they can't actually have sex with a real woman because they don't know, it doesn't do it for them. And it's like,
because everything they're seeing is normalized. And so just normal everyday sex is just not, not as stimulating. And
there's a whole, no, I'm with you. Gaming, electronics, the whole thing. I mean, it's just, there's just layer upon layer upon, I mean, anytime we're getting up here and stimulating the brain and hitting those, I'm not a science researcher guy, although I know who you should talk to. I have plenty of, if you want to stay on this path, I'll give you a whole bunch of people to talk to.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, for sure. But it is, I mean, and everything that we've talked about, I would say is exactly the same. We still need to have the choices, the accountability, the follow through, the boundaries, all of that is still just as important.
Yeah.
Any last minute, anything's left unsaid before we sign off for today? Because I think we could probably continue talking for 10 hours.
Yeah. We can do it again. I would say don't beat yourself up. If your kid is struggling, don't beat yourself up. I know the automatic instinct is to blame yourself or then to start blaming the kid or blame the school. And I mean, I always love it when they're like, he's got just terrible friend group. And I'm like, all the other parents in that group are saying the same thing about your kid, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of that blame culture and let's get into a space of where we're actually trying to help them and support them and give them options and choices. And we're trying to teach little adults. We're trying to raise little adults.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
That's the deal, right? And that's what the reality is. And you can succeed at this. You can totally succeed at this.
Yeah. Even when your kid's 26 or,
Yeah.
there's always time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for being on our show. For the listeners, we'll have everything in the show notes, but for the listeners who are listening right now, where's the very best place to find you if they wanted to look you up or reach out?
So my website is chronichope.us. And then my Instagram, which I sort of do a whole bunch of stuff, is Kevin W. Petersen. And then I have a Chronic Hope YouTube. I got all the social media, and
I'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
We'll link to
there's a ton of videos there. There's a ton of videos. So
Awesome.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Kevin, thanks so much for coming on.
my pleasure.